There comes a time for every video game reviewer / journalist career where one person must give out his thoughts about the game based on that person's overall experience. And at the end of the day, that person must give any video game a fair and honest score without any personal gains, nitpicking moments, or nostalgia clicks getting in the way.
Fallout 3 is a game I've been wanting to review for quite some time now, and even though deep down inside that I know that this is a solid video game, I still believe that in my opinion, this is one of the worst Fallout games I ever played in my life. Okay, before you shoot me, allow me to explain.
But before we can even start on talking about Fallout 3, a little history first. Once upon a time, there was a small gaming development company called Interplay Entertainment. They released a post-apocalyptic role-playing game called Fallout in September 1997. And it turned out to be a complete commercial success, winning awards left, right, and center, and it's arguably one of the best RPG games of all time. With the success of Fallout, they made another awesome sequel in Fallout 2. It felt like it was Interplay's destiny to keep on making Fallout games in the future, until they were bankrupt and they were forced to sell the Fallout series in 2007. So, which game developers would step up to the plate and buy the Fallout franchise? Well, it was none other than Bethesda Game Studios, and it was obviously a no-brainer, as they have made a huge accomplishment in the RPG genre with the Elder Scrolls series. However, the Elder Scrolls series is nothing compared to the Fallout series. In order for Bethesda to understand the world of Fallout, they needed to gather as much source material as they can. And that's why we are here, to see if Bethesda can understand the source material of Fallout, and to find out if they can make a good or even a better Fallout experience than the original.
So before we can start reviewing this game, I should mention that this review will contain spoilers throughout the entire story, Fallout 1 story, and the ending as well. I usually don't talk about the ending in video games, unless if it affects the score. And rest assured, it does. So with that said, let's explore around the world of Washington D.C. as we take a look at Fallout 3.
Published by Bethesda Soft-works and developed by Bethesda Game Studios, Fallout 3 was released in 2008, and it was released on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC. The story begins when your character is born, and you see your father for the very first time. I should clarify that your father in this game is Liam Neeson. How fucking awesome is that? This is the part where you create your character, and the customization is okay, although it would have been better if we can change our body types. Thankfully you can in Fallout 4, but that's a story for another day. Unfortunately, after your birth, your mother had passed away as you are taken away from the room and the screen fades to white. As time passes on in your vault, you experience your character in different ages. From when you were a baby learning how to walk, a 10-year-old kid who's celebrating his birthday, and a teenager that's taking a test called the GOAT. It looks like your character is going to live his life in the vault well, until one day, now in your adulthood, your best friend informs you that your father, Liam Neeson, has left the vault. This causes a riot around the vault as people are killing each other, rat roaches appearing out of nowhere, and the guards ordered to kill you on sight. Confused by your father, Liam Neeson's actions, you leave the vault, explore the wastelands, and you try to find your father. Liam Neeson. Overall, the story is okay, but if you are a huge Fallout fan since the beginning, then you can see that the story at times can be confusing, and you may be asking yourself questions time and time again. I personally don't mind the story. I guess one of the problems I have with it is the story isn't original, as it feels like Bethesda just copied Fallout 1 and 2 story with the water chip and the Gek. What they should have done is come up with new and fresh ideas to make the Fallout journey even better in my opinion.
This is the part where I talk about the gameplay, but before I do that, there's something I need to mention, cause 15 minutes into the game, and I've already got something to complain about.
Now, I know that the intro is building up the story and developing all these characters, but the intro inside the vault feels like it takes forever. I'm sorry guys, but I feel that the intro is way too long. There are a few things added in the intro that just feels very unnecessary, like taking the goat test for example. All you do is sit around doing nothing but answer questions that has nothing to do with the story later on, and it's just a waste of time in my opinion. Hell, the intro takes so long that people actually have mods to get rid of the intro. That's how bad it is. Bethesda did remove a pretty fun part about the original Fallout, and that is the trait system. For those who don't know, traits are these little things you can add to your character, and they can have a positive and a negative effect as well, making each time you use a different trait add something completely new to the entire Fallout experience. As a Fallout fan, I think it's a bit of a shame that they got rid of it. Okay, I think I've talked enough about the intro, so let's move on to the gameplay. You'll see yourself roaming around the wastelands of Washington D.C, and I do have to say that the design is pretty good. The environment is exactly what a Fallout game should be. Dark, mysterious, and very spooky. As for the combat, it is more focused on the shooting aspects, but it's never really a bad thing. You get to use weapons like the 10mm pistol, the hunting rifle, and probably one of the best and overpowered weapons in a Fallout game, called the Fat Man. If you're not comfortable with shooting your enemies while you're aiming, you can always use the VAT system, which allows you to select a body type and shoot it. I find it pretty cool that you can select the heads, arms, legs, and even hit the weapon that the enemy is holding. If they could have added the option to select the eyes just like the original, then the VAT system would have been perfect.
So yeah, the combat is fine. I have no complaints about it whatsoever. But here is where my praise for this game stops. And one of the problems I have with this game is the main character doesn't feel like the main character at times.
Your main character from the get-go has been your father, Liam Neeson. The reason why he has left the vault is so that he and your mother can finish what they started, and that is purifying the water so it will no longer be radiated. Later on, when you see your father, Liam Neeson, sacrificing himself for the greater good, it's common sense that you should take charge, since he is your son, right? Well, in comes Dr. Lee and she immediately takes command and tells you exactly what to do. And towards the end, when the Brotherhood of Steel and the Enclave, more on them later, finally go to war against each other, does the main character give out a glorious speech to lead these soldiers into victory? No. The person giving out the speech is a secondary character that you talk to once or twice in the entire game. Your character is going out and actually doing something compared to all of these characters, but at times, your character just stands in the background doing nothing so the other characters can get their time on the big screen. And at the final battle, when you should be the one to kill everyone and be an absolute badass, but instead, the giant robot is the one killing everyone, and you're just standing behind and taking a back seat. For a Fallout game where you make tough decisions and determine the fate of the wasteland, there aren't much character choices in Fallout 3. People can argue that you can make hard choices in Fallout 3. Oh what? Saving Megaton or blowing up Megaton? That's really the only choices you can make in Fallout 3. Doing the right thing or doing the wrong thing. What about other ways like doing the right thing but adding in a consequence for your actions? While I'm at it, the speeches in Fallout 3 sucks. Instead of progressing when you level up to build up your speech, there's a percentage. And if you fail, you can always reload until you succeed. I honestly have never been a fan of it.
So, if Bethesda didn't have enough creativity to add in more character choices, instead of doing the right thing or the wrong thing, for a game that prides itself on character choices, then Bethesda, I've got 2 words for ya.
You fail.
Another thing that Bethesda have really failed is the factions. They literally messed up the groups, especially with the Brotherhood of Steel. In the original Fallout game, yes, they were nice, but at the end of the day, the Brotherhood of Steel was all about the Brotherhood of Steel. They couldn't care less about the other factions. They always loved to grab and harness as much technology as they can. But in Fallout 3, they're nothing more than your typical goody 2 guys. Kinda like John fucking Cena. And as for the Enclave in Fallout 3, they are just your typical bad guys. So, when you put these two together, you get black and white. Plain and simple, the good guys and the bad guys. I honestly feel it's a downgrade on what they did with the Brotherhood of Steel. Instead of having different layers of interesting things about them, you get the boring and dull good guys. And the super mutants. Don't you get me started on the super mutants in Fallout 3. Okay, I am going to be comparing this game to the original for a few times, so bear with me. In the original Fallout game, most of the super mutants were dumb, but they had a purpose. You can talk to the super mutant and he has a great personality. He talks about how the super mutants is the future of the wasteland, and once everyone turns into a super mutant, he'll believe that there will be peace on Earth. But in Fallout 3, they are just your typical goons. The best way to describe them in this game is that if you have the Raiders and paint them green. They have no purpose in this game, and all they do is say dumb things like blood, murder, and eating your guts. You can actually talk to one of these super mutants in Fallout 3 named Folks, but he doesn't really sound intelligent, and he's not really an interesting character in my opinion. Now that I think about it, most of the characters you see throughout Fallout 3 are not interesting. You can talk to all these people you meet, and they are just so generic and boring. I will say that there are only 2 characters that are interesting, and that, in my opinion, are Moira Brown and 3 Dog. Because they are the only characters in this game that has a personality.
And now, the moment you have been waiting for. The ending. It's bad. Really bad.
If they looked at twice and fixed up the ending before release, then everything would have come together. But however, it's exactly the ending that you would expect. In the original ending in Fallout 1, you can talk to the Master, the guy responsible for the Super Mutants massacre. And you, the player, have to go through this interesting conversation with him and tell him why his plans of the future for Super Mutants will not work. It's a very tense moment, and it is considered to be one of the best endings in the Fallout series. In here, all you do is use your speech for a couple of times, and that's it. It feels like it's been rushed and there's nothing exciting to get into. Another reason why I don't like the ending is because the main antagonist, Colonel Autumn, is not an interesting villain. All he is nothing more than just another typical bad guy. Even the choice where you have to sacrifice yourself or Sentinel Lions is stupid. Again, it's going back to the dumb character choices mentioned earlier. Doing the right thing or doing the wrong thing. Had they let your companion, Folks, putting the code in himself and stepping into the radiation, because we've seen him done it before, then I would have taken everything back that I've said about character choices. Well, apparently, you do have the option to do that. But you want to know what he says? He says no.
So you're telling me, Bethesda, that for a Fallout game that prides itself on character choices and decision making, you put in the option to have folks enter in the chamber, and you tell us no? Well, I'm sorry, Bethesda, but you fucked up, okay? You not only fucked up the ending of Fallout 3, but you also fucked up one of the most basic knowledges of making a role-playing game. So, if I didn't make it clear from the start, I hate Fallout 3. I personally think it's one of the worst role-playing games I ever played in my entire fucking life. Oh, come on, dude, I haven't even given this game a score. Give me a chance, please. Thank you. So now we are on to the verdict section, which means it's time to give this game a fair score. Despite my personal feelings.
I can see why people love this game, and that's absolutely fine. The design of this game is good, and they got the world of Washington D.C. spot on. The combat is fun to play as you can get to kill people and creatures alike, and the VAT system really is a nice complement to the shooting style that this game offers. But if I had to make a guess on what the biggest problem that Fallout 3 suffers on, is the fact that Fallout 3 doesn't feel like an RPG game. It is an okay video game, but if you compare Fallout 3 to Fallout 1, 2, New Vegas, Oblivion, Skyrim, The Witcher Hunt 3, Undertale, Earthbound, or any other RPG game out there, Fallout 3 falls very short on that list.
If I had to give this game a score based on my personal feelings, I would have to give it a 3 out of 10 without any second thoughts and no questions asked. But however, despite my nitpicking moments and my rants towards this game, Fallout 3 is not a terrible video game.
Fallout 3 gets 6 out of 10. I don't know about you, but I feel that a 6 out of 10 is a fair score to give Fallout 3. It is an okay RPG game, but I have seen and experienced better role-playing games than this one. What's really strange about this whole review is when I was a teenager, I fucking loved Fallout 3. I thought it was the best game I ever played in my life. But now, in my adulthood, and looking back at this game with more knowledge in video games, I can say that my opinion of Fallout 3 as a teenager has changed. But war never changes. Yeah, you were waiting for that fucking line, weren't you?
Well, that's my review of Fallout 3. Take it as you will. I've said this time and time again that if there's a game that you like or you hate, that I won't judge you, even if it's a shit game. All I was doing is giving you all my personal feelings about Fallout 3 based on my experience. So, Fallout 3 fans, how did I do? Wait a minute. I'm alive. This was all just a dream. It's a miracle. Alright. Time to put on some shit onto Fallout 4.